Twitter Files 6 released. Matt Taibbi dropping them, and the word of the day is subsidiary. One of the first phrases he uses is calling the FBI a subsidiary of Twitter due to their censorship. You can see the tweet right here from Matt Taibbi himself, at Matt Taibbi, calling it the thread. Twitter Files Part 6, the FBI subsidiary. And so we're going to go through this, right? There's a lot to unpack here, but I want to lay foundation very quickly because I know we're very antsy to get to it. First, I want to talk about the First Amendment. A lot of people forget about how this works. You can see it here right on the screen, and it tells us, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, right? And the first phrase here is Congress. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We're familiar with this. What you'll notice is it says Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say Twitter shall make no law or nobody shall be prohibited from this. It just says Congress shall make no law, right? That's it. So it doesn't say really anything about Twitter. So why can't Twitter just do whatever the heck it wants? And why should there be some distance between Congress and the private sector? Why doesn't it just say nobody shall make any law or do anything respecting the establishment of free speech? Well, it's because we want some separation. We want free speech. We want to give the private people, right, some liberty, and we just want to restrain the government. The Constitution is to restrain a big, disgusting government because they knew what was going to happen, and here we are. So Congress can't do anything like that. All right. But what does that mean, though? Does that mean Twitter can do whatever it wants? Well, not unless it's doing it entirely privately. I want to go through this very quickly again, which is the state action requirement. The state action requirement is a constitutional concept. It refers to the requirement that in order for somebody to have standing, the plaintiff must demonstrate that the government was responsible for the violation. Okay, that the government did something. This is why if Twitter were acting purely privately, there would be no claim. But if the government's highly involved, then it's really becoming a government actor. It's not a private actor. Supreme Court came out and said, look, in 1991 in a case called Edmondson, they said, quote, although the conduct of private parties, right, like a private company, lies beyond the Constitution's scope in most instances, government authority may dominate an activity to such an extent that its participants must be deemed to act within the authority of the government. Okay, in other words, if the government is putting its big, disgusting boot on your neck to get you to censor something, are you a private actor at that point, or are you just an extension of the government? If the FBI comes to you and says, we think it's a very good idea you do this thing, and you're sitting there working at Twitter, do you think that you have the capacity, the strength to tell the FBI to shove off and get the heck out of your company? No, you don't. You go, okay, well, I guess we'll do what you say now. So if that happens, if they are deemed to be dominated by the authority of the government, and as a result, that makes the entity, the private entity, subject to constitutional constraints. That means that they are bound by the same protections that we all enjoy through the First Amendment, because it's the government acting. It's not Twitter acting, is the theory. And so let's go back over to Matt Taibbi's Twitter files, now that we know what the First Amendment says and what state action are. We have to ask ourselves, was what the FBI is doing as a subsidiary of Twitter, was that state action that makes it actionable? Can a United States citizen who had their free speech rights dumped all over go and do something about this? Or can attorney generals do something about this? You would ask yourself, was this state action by the FBI onto the company of Twitter? Taibbi says, the Twitter files are revealing more and more every day about how the government collects, analyzes, and flags your social media content. Not Twitter, the government. Twitter's contact with the FBI was constant and pervasive, as if it were a subsidiary, as though the FBI was like an agency within the operation of Twitter itself. And up until this point in these Twitter files, we've covered all of them. A big complaint was that Twitter and the Twitter files didn't have evidence of government interference and government collusion. That's going to be blown out of the water here today. Between January 2020 and November 2022, there were over 150 emails, 150, between the FBI and former Twitter trust and safety chief Yoel Roth. It's a lot of emails over 2 years. Some are mundane, like San Francisco agent Elvis Chan, who was just deposed in the lawsuit from Missouri, wishing Roth a Happy New Year. Happy New Year! Along with a reminder to attend our quarterly call next week. So it wasn't just a reminder, it was you're wanted at an FBI meeting. Others are requests for information into Twitter users related to active investigations. So they're sending Christmas cards, and they're also sending censorship requests. But Matt says a surprisingly high number of requests are requests by the FBI for Twitter to take action. What? On election misinformation, even involving joke tweets from low follower accounts. The FBI's social media focused task force, it's an actual organization called the FTIF, FTIF. It was created in the wake of the 2016 election, as a lot of things were. Twitter created a whole new election misinformation section. So did Facebook and Google and YouTube. Everybody freaked out. They weren't concerned about Russian collusion. No, they were concerned about Donald Trump winning. They did not want that to happen again. And so they needed to install guardrails in order to stop it. And they did that. They all came up with their election integrity policies and so on. It swelled. The FBI did the same thing. They now suddenly needed a social media task force after Trump wins. Convenient. So it swells up to 80 agents, and it corresponded with Twitter to identify alleged foreign influence and election tampering of all kinds. Federal intelligence and law enforcement, they reach into Twitter, and that included not just FBI, but also the Department of Homeland Security, which partnered with security contractors and think tanks to pressure Twitter to moderate content. State action. When does the government become so dominating, so pressuring, that it becomes an act of the government? In this case, they wanted pressure on moderation. Matt says, it's no secret that the government analyzes bulk data of all sorts for all purposes. Shout out to Edward Snowden. Everything from tracking terror suspects to making economic forecasts to looking at your private messages. Taibbi says that the Twitter files show something new, though, that we haven't seen before. Agencies like the FBI and DHS, Homeland Security, regularly sending social media content to Twitter through multiple entry points, pre-flagged for moderation. All right, so you've got guys like Strzok and Page, and they're on Twitter, and they're like, oh, I'm so offended by this tweet. Maybe I can send that over to Elvis Chan. And maybe Elvis Chan, who's in San Francisco, can tell Twitter to nuke it. Matt says what stands out is the sheer quantity of reports from the government. Some are aggregated from public hotlines. So you know that phone number that you get from the FBI Twitter account, FBI El Paso. They posted this November 3rd, day of the election. They said election day protocol is to stand up in a command post center to identify centralized threats. Look at these people. No, you're not. We're going to see. They're flagging jokes. Okay. So just to make sure you understand what your FBI is doing, here's what they're telling you they're doing. They write this, an FBI agent who's, in his black sunglasses and his wind-up vest. He says, election day protocol for FBI headquarters. Our protocol is to stand up a national election command post, which provides centralized location for assessing election-related threats. Status reports and complaints are tracked. Have a tip? Send it to the tips.fbi.gov or call us at this office. Protect your voice and protect your vote. Okay, wow, that sounds like it's very powerful. A lot of important things are going on over there. They've got a command post. Wow, okay. So let's see what they're actually doing, flagging these messages from these calls that come into 915. An unanswered question from Matt says, do agencies like the FBI and the DHS do in-house flagging themselves, or do they farm this crap out? He says, one former intelligence officer wrote, you have to prove to me that inside the effing government, you can do any kind of massive data or AI search, right? He's saying the government is incompetent. We can't do this stuff ourselves, right? They don't have any system. They don't have good computer programmers. All this stuff is contracted out, right? The CIA don't they host their servers like in Amazon's servers or something, right? They can't even figure it out because they're so dumb and bureaucratic. They have to use the private sector. So they do. So this guy says, I don't think they even do it. So in other words, this means that they're farming it out to another entity, So it goes from Twitter to Facebook to Google, all of them. They've got all your data. But the FBI is contracting with other third parties whom we know nothing about, who are probably, unregulated. Nobody has any idea who they are. They're probably unaccountable. They send all this crap back over to the FBI, and the FBI just says, oh, we'll just take it for what you say it is, and we'll just send it right over to Twitter, and they'll just do whatever they want with it. So this is where we see there's a problem. Taibbi says, hello, Twitter contacts is the email. The master canine quality of the FBI's relationship to Twitter comes through in this November 22nd email, in which the FBI San Francisco is notifying you that it wants action on 4 accounts. That's this year. This email comes from somebody at FBI.gov. It says on November 10th at 10:53 p.m., it says, hello, Twitter contacts. And you see the person who signed off on this, his name is Fred. Who the hell is that? What's his last name? Is he an FBI agent? It says FBI SF. Best regards from Fred. I want to know who Fred is. And they write, hello, Twitter contacts. FBI San Francisco is notifying you of the below accounts, which may potentially constitute violations of our terms of service for any action or inaction deemed appropriate within the Twitter policy. They flagged Jonathan Wade from MA. Mad and Pissed Off is on here, along with Malt_Thomas. All on here. From the FBI, from FBI.gov. It is literally the government saying, remove these accounts. May potentially constitute the violation. All right. So what does Twitter do? In that case, the Twitter employees, they went on, says Matt, to look for reasons to suspend all 4, including from MA, whose tweets are almost all jokes, okay, including his civic misinformation tweet. Said the following. This came in from blank at twitter.com regarding the escalation and the TOS violations. November 10th, 3:12 p.m. FBI folks. From Patrick, he says, I've already reviewed this from the TD perspective, and I suspended 3 of the accounts for multiple abuse and ban evasion violations. But Rodrigo, could you please remove from MA for possible civic misinformation or direct to the appropriate party for their review? In other words, I was able to get rid of 3 of these for the FBI. The other one is mostly just jokes, though, and I can't do anything about that. Can you find another reason to do it? And they did, right? These were the jokes. These were the jokes that were being put out there. Said, I want to remind Republicans to vote tomorrow on Wednesday rather than on Tuesday. Okay, it's a joke. A lot of people were making these jokes. It's not even that funny, but a lot of people were doing it. I want to, because the voting is on Tuesday. That's the punchline. Sorry. Right? The punchline's on Tuesday. So you got to go vote on Tuesday. If you vote on Wednesday, you missed it. Dang it. I guess I'm not going to be able to vote for my candidate. So clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right says, I want to remind Republicans that the vote's tomorrow. Okay. That's a suspension? What? He also posted this, a proposed container ship if there's a worldwide recession. It's a joke. So you're going to nuke that guy? For what? Matt continues. He says, just to show the FBI that it can be hyper intrusive in both directions, they also asked Twitter to review a blue-leaning account for a different joke, except here it was more obvious that it was Claire Foster, PhD, who's actually got a pretty decent account, who calls herself an anti-extremist and a Mao centrist, and she's a board-certified astrologist. Wow. And her IQ is in here, by the way. Is this a real account? Her IQ is in here. And it's a Clinton Harris 2024. This can't be real. This has to be a parody account. Okay, yeah, it has to be a parody account. All right, so Dr. Foster says free airport luggage is a fundamental human right. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's hard to tell, man. I can't tell if this is a real person or not. This confirms that she's probably actually a parody account. Yeah, it's a parody. Do you have to say parody in here? It doesn't say it. Clinton Harris 2024, IQ 169, board certified astrologist. All right. So you can see, right? They're good tweets. And that one's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. It's a good tweeter. And so they actually posted a couple of hers. She said, Dr. Foster, IQ 169, Clinton Harris 2024, says, I'm a ballot counter in my state. If you're not wearing a mask, I'm not counting your vote, which, is pretty dang hilarious. It's pretty hilarious. And that probably happened. And Dr. Foster also said, for every negative comment on this post, I'm adding another vote for the Democrats. All right. So it's like a joke, right? It's kind of funny. But that's what she's got floating around out there. And the FBI, holy crap, they can't take that stuff. Here's what they wrote. They wrote, hello, Twitter contacts, since we have so many of you. Don't even need to address you by the first name. It's just like an entire list. They say FBI San Francisco is notifying you that the below account activities which may potentially constitute violation of terms or inaction within Twitter policy are now available. Catherine is the person who responded here. So they send this over, and you can see it's signed off. The header at the bottom there says Private Sector Engagement Squad, FBI San Francisco. And they're flagging a bunch of people. They've got Twitter user with display name Ultra MAGA. He got nuked. Americans vote today is the tweet. Democrats, you vote Wednesday the 9th. Nuked. Twitter account Claire Foster, who we just read, claims in her post that she's a ballot counter, and for every negative comment, she's adding another vote, right? And so both of those are jokes. Both of those, the very intelligent FBI agents were out there digging in to make sure that there was no election misinformation. That's what we're paying for, right? So Taibbi says, anyone who cannot discern, this is what Claire responded with. Claire said, anyone who cannot discern obvious satire from reality has no place making decisions or working for the feds. Of the 6 accounts mentioned, all but 2, Claire Foster and From MA, were suspended. An internal email from November 5th, the FBI's National Command Post, that joke of a thing, which compiles and sends on the complaints, it sent the San Francisco field office a long list of accounts that they say may warrant additional action. Right? And here's a pretty big one. Let's open this one. Big email here. And we're going to open this image. No, it's not opening. All right, well, we'll read it here. It says ASAC Chan. This one came out November 8th, 12:56, November 6th. Request for coordination with Twitter. ASEC Chan is being written this letter from the National Election Command Post, the NECP. It's requesting the assistance from San Francisco regarding coordination with Twitter. Specifically, the command post has been made aware of tweets by certain accounts that may warrant additional action due to the accounts being utilized to spread misinformation about the upcoming election. Specifically, the command post is requesting the following. Right? That's what they say to ASEC Chan, who's an FBI agent who works in San Francisco and is a liaison to all the big tech platforms. Says, this is what we want. One FBI agent to another FBI agent. We want coordination between San Francisco and Twitter to determine whether the accounts identified violated the terms of service and should be removed. They also want the issuance of preservation letters regarding the accounts identified below. Wow. In order to preserve subscriber information and content pending the issuance of legal process. Wow. So that means they're saying, look, not only do we want you to nuke those accounts, we want to know who they are, everything. We want their whole file, essentially, because we're going to potentially prosecute them. It's a preservation letter, just like we send to prosecutors. Don't delete all your stuff. Don't delete the video files. Keep it. Which means that they want to be using this for legal purposes. Any location information associated with the accounts that Twitter will voluntarily provide to the FBI and assigning any follow-up deemed necessary to the appropriate FBI field office. Wow. So in other words, they're asking for the entire dossier. They want contact information, location data, any location information associated with these guys so that they can go monitor them. And look who's on here. We've got Dartful Codger, Dr. Andrew Jackson. We've got Right Side Broadcasting Networks on here. Gene Gray. We've got Tiburon 11. A lot of names on here. All the FBI wants their entire file, the entire dossier, brought over to them so that they can investigate them for whatever. Agent Chan got that email and he passed it on to his Twitter folks. Very, very comfy relationship there. It says on November 6th, hello, Twitter folks, from Elvis Chan. He is the assistant special agent in charge of the cyber branch. And his pronouns, in case you were wondering, are listed at the bottom of his FBI signature line. It says that, who's calling me? It's Mr. Chan's pronouns are he, him, and his, which is a very important thing when you're in the FBI because it's a very diverse agency now. They've got a lot of people in there and they're making sure that the pronouns. All right. So he says, hello, Twitter folks. Please see below for a list of Twitter accounts which we believe are violating your terms by disseminating false information about the time, place, manner of the upcoming elections. Let us know if you decide to take action against these accounts based on our tipper to you. which was another FBI agent. It's not a tip, it's FBI. And this guy's, forwarding it along. He says, also, let us know if we need to issue a preservation letter as we intend to serve legal process for these accounts. Thanks for your consideration. They're going to prosecute these guys, or they're going to get their files and see what their DMs look like or what they're looking into. This is the government. It's just so disgusting. I can't even tell you. And Twitter is just communicating with them. It makes my blood boil. All right. So Twitter then replied. Here's what they said, right? The government can send whatever they want, but Twitter responded. Here's what Twitter did, because we have to ask ourselves, is this state action? Is the FBI putting the pressure on the private company such that it implicates the government as an actor? Obviously it does. Let's see what Twitter did. They say, hi, Elvis Chan. He, him, there, says, thank you for your patience as our team assessed the accounts that you flagged. He says, we've completed our review and taken action on the following accounts. Permanently suspended for policy violations like ban evasion, platform manipulation, excessive misinformation strikes, right? They've got, 6 accounts right here, 7 accounts. Temporarily suspended was David Cloy, and had tweets bounce for civic misinformation were all of the other ones. In regards to your question about a preservation letter, it is a good way to ensure that the data hasn't been purged from our systems before legal process is filed and processed. Externally, the contact for submitting those is the same. Thank you, says Patrick. Okay, this is copying Yoel Roth. Look who's on there. Tuesday, November 8th. Was that election day? Oh, yeah, it was election day. Weird. So you're saying that Twitter was banning people from the platform, literally on election day, at the suggestion of the FBI. Yoel Roth knew all about it. All of these other FBI agents are all doing the same thing. They're all in on this. They are literally censoring speech, right, on the day of the election. And it's one of the most reprehensible things that I think you can imagine in this country. It's disgusting because it's interfering with the entire process. Now, I think every one of these FBI agents should be investigated and prosecuted if they contributed to this. There's a law called 18 U.S. Code Section 241. It's called conspiracy against rights. If 2 or more persons conspire to oppress or intimidate any person in the free exercise or the enjoyment of their right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or the laws, then they shall be fined and imprisoned for not more than 10 years. U.S. Code 18, Section 241. Conspiracy against rights. This is state action. This is depriving people privileges guaranteed to them under the Constitution, which is their free speech rights under the First Amendment, which we've already talked about. Several people are conspiring to threaten and oppress all of the individuals in this conversation from Matt Taibbi, and every one of those FBI agents should be investigated, every single one of these people, and prosecuted if the law fits. Because what's happening here is on election day, they are coming up with reasons. Twitter didn't identify these people. Twitter didn't look for these people and their algos didn't find this stuff. No, the FBI did. But for the FBI, if the FBI had not sent these emails, these people would still be on Twitter on election day. And that is the absolute censorship, silencing, oppression of First Amendment rights in this country. Now, many of the above accounts were satirical. Nearly all, with the exception of Baldwin and Right Side Broadcasting, were relatively low engagement, and some were suspended, most with a generic thanks Twitter letter, right? They weren't even saying anything, it sounds like, that was even bad or interesting. I don't care. It's the FBI censoring and shutting people up. Says the following. This is the letter they got. Hi, we're writing to let you know we reviewed your appeal. Attempted voter suppression, voter intimidation is unlawful, and you are now deleted. So those people had their voice boxes ripped out of their mouths, not by Twitter, by the FBI, by FBI agents. Matt says, when I told of the FBI flagging, Lexi Tola, who's worth a follow, I'm sure, got suspended. Says, my thoughts initially include, 1, seems like a prima facie case of First Amendment violation. Yeah. And holy cow, me, an account that with the reach of an amoeba, what else are they looking at? What else are they looking at? What else are they looking at? Right? Their eyeballs are so magnified that they can see even small accounts. Tiberius said, I can't believe the FBI is policing jokes on Twitter. That's crazy, says Tiberius. Yeah, it is crazy. In a letter to former Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer, Jim Baker, remember him? Jim Baker was the Sussman saga, the guy who got a bunch of information from Michael Sussman, who sat down with Jim Baker when he was trying to sell the Russian collusion hoax from Hillary's campaign back in 2016. Total liar, and he has been dishonest, thrown out of the FBI, went over to Twitter, was dishonest there, and got thrown out of there. So hopefully he keeps his Harvard teaching job, because that's about the only thing he has left. He fits in perfectly there. On September 16th, 2022, he got a letter. Legal executive Stacia Cardile outlines results from her, quote, soon-to-be weekly meeting with the DHS, DOJ, FBI, and the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, a bunch of bureaucrats. Here's the letter. To Jim Baker from Stacia, September 16th. She says, oh, hey, Jim. Please see below for a summary of our election-related work that I completed today. It's a lot of work. This looks nice, nicely formatted. She put a lot of work in there. Shout out to Stacia. Her censorship of American freedoms looks great. It's nicely formatted. Says, 1, government industry sync. I participated in our monthly, soon-to-be weekly, 90-minute call with the FBI, DOJ, DHS, ODNI, and industry partners on election threats. A few items to note. 1, foreign adversaries are amplifying themes being advanced by domestic actors to undermine the legitimacy of the election. Foreign adversaries are amplifying themes advanced by domestic actors. What does that mean? Oh, it means that the domestic actors are the source. They're saying the things, and the foreign adversaries are amplifying them. So that means we better shut up all of the domestic actors, which means you and me. Stacia says, I explicitly asked if there were any impediments with the ability of the government to share classified information or other relevant information with the industry. FBI was adamant that no impediments to information sharing exist. No free speech implications. We're definitely not a state actor. Okay, there are lawyers in the government that went through this analysis. I'm sure of it, right? There have to be. That said, oh, no. Here's a memo. We're not state actors. Give them whatever you want. FBI, we're just sending them information. Twitter decides what to do with it. That's the decision, right? We can't be putting pressure on them. We're not dominating them, legally speaking, if all they're doing is just acting on our recommendations. It's just like, they have great burgers down there at that restaurant. You should go have one. If you go and have that burger, I didn't dominate you to do it. Now, if I am the FBI and I have a gun to your head and I have the whole weight of the federal government at my back and I say, they're pretty good burgers over there, you should go have one. Like right now, or else. If you don't do it, I'm going to see you next week and I'm going to ask about the burger again. And if you haven't had the burger again, I'm going to be very upset with you because it's that good, right? It's nuts. So they're going to be leaning on Twitter over and over weekly now on a weekly basis. And they're going to be putting the strong arm of the government on their necks. And they're going to say that there's no impediment. I asked if the U.S. government was tracking if foreign threats, long silence. The government is not tracking foreign interference or threats related to down ballot races. So they only care about up races, I guess. Certain races that are at the top of the ballot. Yeah. This is September 16th, 2020. This is just great. Yeah. They don't give a crap about any other race at all. Senate, House, no concern. I asked if the U.S. government was tracking foreign threats related to non-presidential races. Long silence. No, they're not tracking anything. They don't care about anything other than keeping Trump out of office. That's it. DHS has created a chart of the key dates in the election process at the state level. They're confirming information with the states this week and should get us a summary soon. Policy tweeted about the meeting without legal review. As the only Twitter representative to speak, I raised my disappointment in the lack of involvement directly to comms. It was a missed opportunity. They've got Project Heron. Says, I met with legal to discuss intervention under consideration about labeling election results. I raised concerns about the feasibility of this. All this is going to Jim Baker. So was he at the FBI at that time? Former Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker. No, he's at Twitter at this point. But why does this say FBI up here? No. So he might still actually be at the FBI. This is confusing because he left at some point. So this says he's with the FBI. So I'm presuming that he's still with the FBI at this point. So they talk about civic integrity labeling. They talk about account security upgrades. Over 2,300 high-risk politicians are going to be prompted to update their security settings. I work closely with Matthew on additional edits. And there's a whole list of action items, right? All of this is direct interfacing with the FBI. Matt says the Twitter executive writes that she explicitly asked if there were impediments. The answer? No impediments to sharing. And this passage, says Matt, underscores the unique one big happy family vibe between Twitter and the FBI. Hey, Twitter friends. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy holidays. Good morning. Good Christmas. Whatever. Right? They're colluding with each other. With what other firm would the FBI blithely agree no impediments to classified information, right? You just give it to you guys? Hand over fist? Yeah, because you're doing their job. You're doing exactly what they want, which is to maintain their power. Matt says at the bottom of the letter, she lists a series of escalations raised, which are apparently all handled. And about one of them, she says, we flagged a specific tweet on Illinois and the use of modems to transmit election results in possible violation of the civic integrity policy. Except they do use that tech in limited circumstances. So we flagged it, but they kind of do use it. Another internal letter from January shows Twitter execs processing an FBI list of possible violative content tweets. Here's this email thread. January 5th, 2021. Very interesting, another interesting date here. At 2:26, the day before January 6th, obviously, says you've been added as a participant. So UE@twitter.com, unified escalations, report by the FBI on possible violative content. You've been added as a participant. All of these tweets should go. BMW Yates, Me's Please has to go. Loney Reader, all of them. And you can track your ticket here. It's just like you're going and submitting a support request. Here, most of the tweets contain the same get out of here and vote type of trope, and they had low engagement. This is what the FBI spends their times on. Okay, so underscore BMW Yates is here. He says, this is our future, guys. If the Dems get full control, if you're in Georgia, you better vote on Wednesday, right? It's another joke. That's what the FBI is flagging for Twitter. In this March 2021 email, an FBI liaison thanks a senior Twitter exec for the chance to, quote, to speak to you and the team, and then delivers a packet of products. So from somebody at FBI.gov, dated Wednesday, March 3rd, to Stacia, who we've already heard from, it says, hi, Stacia. It was great speaking with you and the team at Twitter last week. Another FBI agent speaking with another Twitter team. Seems like more government involvement. They tell us that I wanted to flag a few products that were released today and earlier in the week that may be of assistance to Twitter. Let us know if you have any questions. What kind of products were those? Matt Taibbi tells us, he continues, he says, the executive circulates the, quote, products, which are really Department of Homeland Security bulletins, stressing the need for greater collaboration between law enforcement and their, quote, private sector partners. Need a lot more feds interfering in Twitter. Stacia from Stacia on March 3rd to a bunch of people. Jim Baker's on there. Yoel Roth is on there. And Patrick Longcon, the Conlon, says, see the products of the FBI office sector just provided to us. Please feel free to share with your teams. Here's what we've got. Russian malign influence, use of permissive social media platforms. We've got a heightened domestic violent extremist threat. They say it's going to persist in 2021. And they've got Iranian influence efforts, primarily use online tools to target U.S. audiences, remain easily detectable for now. Thanks, Stacia. Right. And as we know, all of these foreign influence all they're doing is amplifying U.S. or, private citizens' conversations from a prior thread we saw. Taibbi says, the ubiquity of the 2016 Russian interference story as stated is a pretext for building out the censorship machine. He says this cannot be overstated. It's analogous to how 9/11 inspired the expansion of the security state. So 9/11 happens, we get the Patriot Act. We get the entire apparatus that robbed us of our civil liberties then. Now, in 2016, because Donald Trump won, everybody freaked out right after the election. Facebook, Twitter, everybody came up with their new election integrity policies. And this was used, 2016 Russian interference, which was really a non-story, right? It was basically nothing. Inconsequential. But that was the excuse. And now it's analogous now to 9/11. It created the censorship machine. Here's what they posted in one of those analyses. They said, we assess that Russian malign influencers probably will increasingly use U.S. social media platforms that offer more permissive operating environments. We base this assessment on the reduced effectiveness of Russian influence operations. Our assessment is also based at their operational. Yeah, it's just, there's nothing, they don't say anything. It's just a joke. All right. So it's just the scapegoat that they're going to constantly use to beat us over the head, just like terrorists, right? Just like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Oh my gosh, they're going to kill us all to death. They're going to blow up the whole country. Yeah, just like the Russians are. Yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. Russian influencers probably will increase. Okay, well, they probably will not too. So Matt says, while the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, in its, quote, products, pans permissive social media for offering operational advantages to Russians, it also explains that the domestic violent extremist threat requires addressing the information gaps. They say information gaps and challenges associated with individualized nature of radicalization could be partially mitigated with increased collaboration between law enforcement, terrorism prevention efforts, and private sector partners. So if they can get in there, then they can stop, I guess, all of the fake governor kidnapping hoaxes that they were highly involved in. You know, if the FBI really wanted to stop this stuff, they could just stop being the FBI, and most of this would go away. We judge these partnerships would improve our ability to detect changes in DVE trends and provide domestic violent extremist trends and provide early warning of potential attacks, right? They've got to come in here now. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Do you want early warning or do you want late warning? I mean, do you want to be told like, oh, a bomb went off in your neighborhood after it went off? No. What kind of person are you? So we better get early warning. And how do we do that? By censoring the terrorists. Matt says FBI in one case sent over so many possible violative content reports that Twitter personnel congratulated each other in the Slack for the monumental undertaking of reviewing them. Slack channel Blue says, at 1729, he says, anyone need help reviewing the tweets forwarded an FBI report on violative content? +1, we can help on the SI, says Red. And they say, thank you all so much for your help, says Purple, a monumental undertaking. Because the FBI is censoring so much crap for them. Matt says there were multiple points of entry into the Twitter for government flagged reports. This letter from Agent Chan, Elvis, to Yoel Roth references Teleporter. This is a platform through which Twitter could receive reports from the FBI. Another one from Elvis. He says, hi, Twitter folks. I just got something hot off the press today. You must be excited. Please be on the lookout for a Teleporter message from me with 2 documents to download. Thanks. From Elvis Chan to, no, this is from Elvis Chan to Yoel Roth, FBI.gov. From Yoel Roth back to Elvis Chan, received. Got it. Yoel Roth, the head of trust and safety, got it, confirming it. Reports also came from different agencies. Here's an employee who recommends bouncing content based on evidence, quote, from DHS, etc. On a Slack message, Green writes, resharing this as it doesn't look like they were actioned yesterday. Given the evidence we received from DHS, etc., I'd lean towards batting the URL and bouncing the videos, to be honest, given the accusations, but relatively, he puts in quotes, low visibility. So DHS is sending info, FBI is sending info. State governments also flagged content. We know the Biden campaign flagged content. We know Katie Hobbs flagged content. Twitter, for instance, received reports via the Partner Support Portal, an outlet created by the Center for Internet Security, a partner of DHS. Twitter execs received an alert from California officials by way of our Partner Support Portal, and they debate whether to act. Donald Trump posted this. He says, California hired a pure Sleepy Joe Democrat firm to count votes. No way Republicans. He says, California's in trouble. Vote Trump. Watch the biggest comeback. Also, New York and Illinois, go for it. Posted that October 13th, right? And all of that is now being debated in Twitter in their thread. They said, all right, well, here's what our handbook says. The jurisdiction says this. They're requesting feedback on the tweet, and they want to know, right? Somebody sent this in. From our voting law compliance handbook, public observation, the SOS, I have pasted their ask below. They want to know, they're requesting why Twitter didn't take any action. Okay, so the government censors send this over to Twitter. Twitter doesn't do anything, and they say, why not? And they describe the rest of the process about balloting. To clarify, is their ask for Twitter to review or to explain why no action was taken upon a previous review? They say why no action was taken. The report came in through our partner support portal. Right? So they submitted this ticket like, oh, this is going to be deleted. It wasn't deleted. And so they're saying, why wasn't it deleted? We are in charge. I mean, we're the politicians here. A video was reported to the Election Integrity Project, which they just created at Stanford, apparently on the strength of information from the Center for Internet Security. So Stanford also created their own project. Everybody created these entities to make sure we have election integrity because they lost the election. So this is a long, very legally heavy video, but essentially it claims that election workers opened something and did problems. So how do we handle this? And they say, well, CISA or CIS, the cyber intelligence, whatever, the law doesn't prohibit curing and all of this other stuff, right? So they're debating it. They're taking data in from outside sources. If that's confusing, it's because it is, right? It is confusing. It's because the CIS is a DHS contractor, describes itself as partners with the CISA agency. So CIS is this fake thing. No. Yeah, so EIP is from Stanford. CIS is the Center for Internet Security. Okay, so it's all these agencies. If that's confusing, it should be. CIS contracts with DHS. DHS is partners with CISA. So they have all of these different layers, right? Everybody can report. You can report on basically anything they tell you how to report. Report at CISA Security, CISsecurity.org, verify the information, and so on. Matt says the EIP is one of a series of government-affiliated think tanks that mass review content at Stanford. A list that also includes the Atlantic Council's Forensic Digital Laboratory, the University of Washington Center for Informed Policy, and so on. What Matt says in concluding, he says the takeaway for us all, what most people think of as, quote, the deep state is really a tangled collaboration of state agencies, private contractors, and sometimes state-funded NGOs. The lines become so blurred as to be meaningless. Yeah, it's all just one disgusting swamp. That's why the word swamp is used, because it's disgusting. And they're all just in this big dog pile of wrecking America. Taibbi says Twitter Files researchers are moving into a variety of new areas now. Watch Barry Weiss, watch Schellenberger about this space. More coming in soon. So that's Matt Taibbi, and that is Twitter Files 6. And boy, there is a lot to unpack there. And there were other people who are asking questions about this, right? If the states are censoring information to Katie Hobbs, does your office report this person, Dr. Andrew Jackson, to the FBI? Who's reporting all these people? How far does this state action go? What politicians were involved in this? Who was requesting it? What different political parties? What different secretaries of state, governors, their offices? And who was interfering with our rights? Which of these people were conspiring against the rights in violation of U.S. Code 18241? Says that if two or more people conspire to injure or oppress the enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to us by the Constitution, they shall be fined and imprisoned for 10 years. And I think if we had an actual country where people actually cared about the Constitution with actual prosecutors and politicians, there would be some repercussions. But we'll continue to hold our breath as this story continues to unfold. We know there will be many more Twitter Files, and we'll continue to cover them. I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.